Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Liana for lianavibes.com, and in today's video we are going to talk about psychedelics, more specifically psychedelic medicines. As a disclaimer, I am not here to push, sell, or encourage you to take psychedelics, and this video is only for entertainment and educational purposes. Now that that's out of the way, with the recent surge of interest in psychedelics the past few years, it's important to consider the medicinal use of these amazing tools. Before we begin, please like and subscribe so we can vibe on the constant. Now, let's get into the video. What exactly is a psychedelic? So the root word of psychedelic comes from the Greek and it means mind manifesting. So in this context, it's any substance, usually a drug, that produces experiences that are mind manifesting. Psychedelics have their own categories. First are the indoles. These include psilocybin or magic mushrooms, lysergic acid diethylamide or LSD, iboga or ibogaine, ayahuasca, where locals call it yahe and where DMT is derived, morning glory seeds, which contain ergine, which is also known as lysergic acid amide, the closest relative of LSD in nature. Second are the CATECHOLS or the phenethylamines, which include peyote and mescaline, MDA and MDMA. These experiences have more of an amped feeling, which is very different than the indoles. Why would anyone take psychedelics? That's a great question. Psychedelics have been used throughout most of history. Again, they are mind manifesting. Some interesting hypotheses and things to consider are: number one, that the ingestion of magic mushrooms by early humans are what began the growth and expansion of the human brain. This was hypothesized by Terence McKenna and is known as the stoned ape theory, which gave way to the brain's complexities that it has now, as magic mushrooms increase brain activity and neuroplasticity, which creates new links and expansion of consciousness. Number two, the story of Santa Claus is actually about the indigenous Arctic Circle dwellers, the CATECHOLS and the Koryaks of Siberia, who their shamans on the night of the winter solstice would consume Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric mushroom. We commonly know it as the Super Mario mushroom, the one with the red caps and the white polka dots. And they would have rituals that would allow them to gain insight and have mystical visions about the future. And notice that the similarities between Santa Claus's colors and that of the Amanita muscaria. Number three, some tribes in South America would use psychedelic brews of yahe or ayahuasca as a rite of passage. They would take boys from the village at night deep into the jungle, allow them to consume the brew, give them a knife, and they were expected to survive and return to the village, because they believed when they returned, they would have been transformed from a boy into a man. Their logic: if you can face the terrors of your own mind in the middle of the night in the deep of the jungle, then you are a true warrior when you return. Your mind, after all, is often the greatest enemy. Number four, more recently, it was widely known that psychedelics were and are often used to increase productivity, creativity, and to have insight and perspective on the complex challenges of innovation in Silicon Valley. Many successful techies attribute their success in their field to their experiences with psychedelic medicines. And number five, the most important of all, is using these compounds in the medicinal setting. Organizations like the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, also known as MAPS, are backing the important research of using psychedelic medicines to cure depression, PTSD, anxiety, and more. Cure, not bandage over. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that the creator of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson, was a huge proponent for LSD? It's what helped cure his alcoholism addiction and disease. He wanted to include it in the original 12-step program, as having a spiritual awakening is the core key to the 12-step program. However, the government was not too keen on this idea, so that was omitted. Aren't psychedelics bad? Psychedelics tend to be the least harmful substances, physiologically speaking. Legal substances like tobacco and alcohol are far more damaging. For example, you can be addicted to alcohol, you can get alcohol dementia, and it wreaks havoc on your liver, your GI tract, your skin, and brain due to its direct neurotoxic abilities. Overuse and overconsumption is very common. Just because it's legal doesn't somehow make it safer, better, or healthier. Furthermore, addiction is rarely seen in psychedelics, as the mystical, intense experiences of psychedelics often frighten people. Most people don't want to try that again for a very long time. Usually once it's often enough, experience-wise. It's the premise that these are instruments and are tools to look into your own psyche. And just like any scientist, they put the tool or instrument down once they received the message. Exploring one's mind is the most powerful thing one can ever do. In one intense, guided experience, one can process in one sitting what 10 years worth of talk therapy could accomplish. That's magic. There's a term used for those who explore their minds with psychedelics: psychonauts. They're just like astronauts, but instead of exploring space, they explore their inner workings of their mind, which is far more fascinating. I'd also like you to consider, when you think of other illicit substances being used in the nightlife or parties or abused on the streets, these are the dopamine agonists, like cocaine, meth, heroin, etc. These are highly addictive physiologically, highly destructive, and the groups associated to the sales, pushing, and transportation of said substances often include a lot of violence and underground syndicates, street violence. Psychedelics, however, aren't associated to that. It isn't a lucrative venture for the underground markets compared to other substances, because you can't get addicted physiologically. You could maybe get addicted psychologically, but not physiologically dependent. Plus, one bad or very intense trip is enough to scare most people away and not touch it for a very long time. That's not very good business. Psychedelics as medicine. The most promising use of psychedelics is to treat disease and illness of the mind and body. Many report of its benefits in ending their severe depression, migraines, anxiety, PTSD, traumas, and even allergies. I've personally seen psychedelics get rid of severe allergies that would often lead into anaphylaxis. I've personally seen it. It's unfortunate that since it was demonized and made illegal in 1968, research on these compounds were halted, and many years of potential use and benefits for humanity were stunted. However, thankfully to different cities across North America, the wave of decriminalization has begun. Psychedelics, after building mounting evidence that they are helpful and healing people, including our veterans, we shouldn't disallow our ability to treat mental health, especially for those with extreme backgrounds of trauma. What organizations like MAPS are doing is they are showing the proven results of its clinical use. These experiences would be held in office, not given as something to be prescribed and taken home, but in an intentional therapeutic setting. Why or how would this work? This would work because of the intimate mind-body connection. There is a terminology in the medical field called psychosomatic illness, which is literally mind-body disease. And if you're aware of the placebo effect, where in studies, a group of people taking a placebo unknowingly actually reproduce the effect of the actual pharmaceutical, This is powerful stuff. Think about it, how much the mind can influence the body. If the mind can create a pharmaceutical-like response in an individual's body from a sugar pill by belief alone, then the mind can also cause disease, just as sinister, just as real, and just as traumatic. To end this video, I want you to consider this. We all enter this world as a blank slate. Our unique brain physiology will influence our overall personality. However, it's our environment that can reinforce certain connections within the brain. And sometimes it's not always a good thing, especially if one has had experience with abuse, trauma, and more. Psychedelic mind manifesting medicine allows one to deeply explore the unique ways their mind works. It has scientifically been proven to create neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, the new growth of new connection and nerve cells within the brain, and that can oftentimes be extremely healing. Because sometimes we need to directly be shown how to heal. When you break your arm, you go to the ER. They take an x-ray. They can precisely tell you where it's broken, fix it, put a cast on it, wait a few weeks, and you're good to go. When you break your soul, when your feelings hurt so deep that you carry it to everyday life, tell me, how do you conceptualize that? You can feel it, but you can't hold it. You can't see it. No amount of radiology imaging can show you what a person is feeling deeply at their core. Psychedelic-assisted therapy is the new wave of the future to begin healing at the deepest levels. Well, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that was both informative and helpful. Please like, subscribe, and share as it helps me out. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now. Waiting, daylight, get back.